Hello, and welcome back to Many Adventures Mini. So this week I decided to do some prep work towards another miniature that I want to paint, but because of how I was going to go about it, I decided to make a whole video on just this subject. I'm making something of a more scenic base specifically designed for this creature. So a little preview for next week. I'm planning on working on a creature called an Utjugg. I'll see about throwing an image up here or something if I can find one. But in essence, it's a large sewer monster that lives in the sewers of large cities, just literally eating everything down there to survive. So they're nasty, disgusting creatures, and like I said, they live in sewers. So I decided to attempt to make a more scenic sewer base for this creature rather than some of the stuff I've done traditionally. And I was working with some new materials and I kind of liked the way it came out, so I thought I'd try and go into more detail and show a video of that process and try to be a bit more thorough with it than I sometimes am with other stuff. So let's go ahead and I'll jump to my recordings and we'll go over how I did all of that. Alright, so to start off with on this project, I take the miniature that I'm going to be using, this Utjugg from the Chardalon box set, and I go ahead and place it on some medium weight chipboard and just trace out the edge of the base. This is the quickest and easiest way just to get the right size base for what you're working with, just in case the base isn't a standard size, or in this case mine's a little bit warped, but I still wanted it to be right for this miniature. Then I'll just cut that little corner out of the chipboard to make it easier to work with. And then I'll just go ahead and follow it around with an X-Acto knife. In this situation, you could also use scissors if you had some that were sharp and accurate enough, but this is the way I decided to do it, and I just keep going around several times until I'm able to get it off. And then I just clean up any ragged edges I might have as best as I can, just to get it to the right size before I'll go ahead and test fit it here onto the bottom of the miniature. Make sure I got it as close as I could, and in this case, I think I got it close enough, even if it's not perfectly circular. So I'll go ahead and use my scenic glue, and just put a dab there in the middle and brush it out towards the edges, just to get a thorough coverage on it. And in this case, I'm going to be using these insulation foam bricks that I cut out of XPS insulation foam. They're cut to a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch by 1/2 an inch in size, and I just line them up with the edge and start filling in the entire base. And I don't worry about going over the edge of the base. I'm going to be cleaning them up at a later date, but I'm going to want it to be flush with the base, so I need to make sure I go over. And going throughout this, I just need to make sure that they're sticking properly, so I reapply glue if necessary if it's starting to dry, even putting it between the bricks if need be instead of just on the base surface, and just thoroughly cover the entire thing, getting as much overlap as I need. And here I'm checking to see if I want to go for a second layer for the effect that I'm going for, and I do decide to do this, so I go ahead and coat that first layer of bricks in another coat of my scenic glue before starting in here with another layer of bricks. And I go ahead and stagger the pattern from below because I believe that would be the best way to get a good texture going on here. So I start filling in that second layer, but here I decide to only fill halfway across. And then I get it to this shape by using my Proxxon hot wire cutter. I don't have any good footage of this at the moment because the way my setup works, I don't have a good way to film it, but enough to say I just used the bottom of the base as a template and cut around it. And once it's in this shape, I use a hot glue gun just to fill in the lower area with hot glue. And this worked pretty well. It wasn't exactly the texture I was originally going for, but what I got was better. And when that is dry, I use this Mod Podge mixed with black paint. It's a favorite technique of Blackmagic Crafts, and I like to use it whenever I'm working with foam. So since I'm doing that here, I go ahead and give it all a firm coating, and this just protects the foam and works as a good primer layer for putting paint on later. And it doesn't stick to the super glue so well, but yeah. So these are the paints I used for painting the base. If you need to, you can reference back here to look at what I'm using. I decided to try this instead of showing them all at the beginning. So I use my deep gray as a base coat for all of the bricks. This gets a bit of a darker brick tone than you might see other places, so it's where I like to go. And I start with my dark green color here on the glue. Since we're going for a sewer, I decided to go with some nasty green sludge. And I just kind of roughly wet blend in my 3 layers and play around with it, trying to mix it in a little bit, but also keep it distinct enough to keep it interesting. And then I come in with this red wine color and this tan color just to pick out a few bricks, just to add a little bit of visual variance and make it a little bit more interesting. And this is a good technique just to make brick work a little less boring. And I'll just go and hit as many as I think I need. There's not really a science to it, it's just try not to have too many or too few. I also try to smear some of the green up onto there because this is a sewer. I wouldn't expect clean brickwork in a sewer, so that made sense to me. And when that has mostly dried, I take some dark gray and just do a quick dry brush to try and bring out some of the middle tones on my brickwork. This is probably an unnecessary step with the way I did it, since I immediately then went in to use this homemade black wash that I have. This is different from my other black wash that dries with a shiny finish. It's a cheaper black wash that I made before that. But when that step is done, I go ahead and use a suede as a dry brush to bring out the actual highlights before adding a little bit more green smear just to get the effect I'm going for. And it's as simple as that. Here is the final images for what I got. I won't know exactly how well this works out until I finish painting up the Utøya miniature and see how well it fits. I am fairly optimistic that this is going to work pretty well, so I'm looking forward to trying it. So let's go ahead and hop back over to the camera and we will go from there. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. As you can probably tell from what I've gone so far, next week I am planning on painting the Utøya mini from the Wrath of Ashardalon board game. So stick around for next week to check that out. And please, if you have any feedback, please leave me a comment down below. I really like reading those and getting feedback from people, and I want to know if you guys like this slightly different, where I work on maybe a little bit more elaborate base to make a video out about it instead of just quickly shoving it in at the beginning of a video or something like that. I enjoyed putting this one together, and I could try doing more elaborate scenic style builds, whether it's for bases or even terrain to go along with the games, maybe some little houses or something. So let me know if anybody's interested in that, and I'd like to try doing some of that in the future instead of just minis. But if, like I said, if you have any feedback, comment down below. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of my videos, please hit subscribe and press the bell icon so you get notified whenever any of my videos go up. And so I'll see all of you guys next week.